You must try this. If you live in a cold climate where you get heavy freezing and snow, I'm in Canadian Zone 3, so if you're anything higher than that, but lower than having nice growing season all year long, then this is a must-try hack. I tried this spring and I absolutely loved it, so I will be utilizing it again this year. And that is planting seeds in the fall. Yes. No word of a lie, it works. And there are a lot of seeds you can do this with. So things have really slowed down here. There's no leaves on the trees. Frost has hit, so everything's looking a little bit droopy and weak. And so we are officially full bore getting our fall perennials in, our fall bulbs like garlic in. Go check out the video I did on that. And one of the things you can actually do right now is your seeds. And you can plant these seeds up until, and there's way more than just two, but you can plant these seeds up until the ground physically freezes. Yes, that's how late in the season you can go tell. And in some cases, the germination of these seeds is a good indicator it's time to plant the rest of your seeds outdoors. So if you don't have a soil temp thermometer, this is a great alternative. So let's get into it. So there are some rules if you're going to choose to go with the fall seed, and that is you want to typically plant more. So 25% more seeds should be planted to help ensure you get the harvest you're looking for. Good news is all the seeds are on sale. Like West Coast seeds, for example, they're having a massive blowout of seeds. So it works in your favor and you come out probably about the same. I'll leave the West Coast links down below if you want to grab seeds from them, because they are quite heavily discounted at the moment, so that is something to definitely give a shot. But you want to plant 25% more. The second thing you want to consider is mulching. So I would say this is a non-negotiable. Your mulch does not have to be sophisticated. I've done many videos on this, but it could be shredded leaves, it could be grass clippings, it can be straw, it could be shredded newspaper, you name it, I don't care what it is. You just want something on the soil surface to prevent the actual seeds from being washed away or blown away, especially in the case of those that are shallow planted seeds like lettuce, for example. So do keep that in mind. You want to put those on. And the third thing, or the last thing, would be utilizing snow. So if you get snowfall, every chance you get, shovel it onto your garden beds and pile it up, because snow is an insulator. It also obviously has moisture. So use the snow to your advantage, because the more snow you pile on top of those seeds, the better chances of germination in the spring. So the moment you get snow, throw it on top. Okay, number one is greens. Now this category, can include anything from lettuce to mustards to collard greens, spinach, you name it. This is the one where I would heavily encourage mulching, because of the fact that the lettuce seeds you would kind of sprinkle in the soil surface and then mulch over top. So do put them in place and they will germinate in the spring for you. This also goes for any of the plants that have set seed, where you've chosen not to reclaim the seed from it and then store it, or you've chosen not to remove the plant in its entirety and compost it. If you left these plants in place, flowered, and seeds formed, these would technically overwinter and then self-seed. So they could be considered a weed in the event that they self-seed in a spot that you don't want them to self-seed in, because you're doing crop rotation or whatever the case is. So do keep that in mind. If you've left those plants in place, they will reseed themselves. Number two is root vegetables. This one I find incredibly convenient. The reason being is things, so I will give you the list first. So it's radishes, turnips, parsnips, and carrots. Beets do not fall into this category. It's those four. Now, here's the thing. If you seed these in the fall, major benefit is that the parsnips, the radishes, and the turnips in particular tend to be susceptible to flea beetle damage. If you seed them early, they will grow outside of the flea beetle's life cycle, and they will be mature by the time the flea beetles are even turning up, and therefore you could completely skip the flea beetle season and run off into the sunset with an actual harvest, which can be rare for turnips and radishes in particular, because the flea beetles love them so much. So definitely a hack you should try in the event you want to escape the flea beetles. Now, the alternative to flea beetle prevention, I have videos on that, so go check that out in the case that you didn't plant them in fall, but definitely a hack you should try. And again, these are planted under the soil surface. They're not surface broadcasted like a lettuce leaf with mulch on top, and they are heavier seeds, so you could get away without mulching for these seeds. However, you want to insulate them just so you can help amplify the potential germination and get the most bang for your buck. And the best way to do that is through mulch, or either via snow or like a physical organic mulch. So do keep that in mind. It'll increase your germination rates exponentially. This next one is the one that convinced me of fall planting, and that is peas. So last year I did some peas in newly established beds, and I specifically did the peas for a cover crop. And the reason for this is because the more growth cycles you get out of a newly established bed, the faster that bed will turn productive. And my rule is 3 to 5 years before a soil is productive that has been newly established. And that just comes down to the rhizosphere here and getting the good microbes in and just getting things to flow, proper aggregation of the soil, etc. So the way to expedite this is to get as many growing seasons off it as possible. And that bed I actually set up in the late summer. So my idea was to get a cover crop on, so I did get a growth cycle out of it, so next spring I could get some sort of a harvest. Now, unfortunately, we got hit with an early frost last year, which meant my cover crop, not only did it not germinate, it just didn't come up at all, so I got 0 growing season out of it. However, to my surprise, these peas germinated in the spring, and they did so well at germination. The germination rate was so high, I would say my loss was next to 0. And ultimately, I got pea harvest early. I also got a cover crop in the early spring, despite being in a zone 3. And it was a great indicator that that soil was warmed up and ready to be planted, which is huge in the case of not having a soil thermometer. And this is because pea seeds, we tend to plant really deep into the soil surface, and the soil freezes top to bottom and it thaws top to bottom. So solar air or solarization will warm the top layers, and then ambiently it will push down lower. And so ultimately speaking, the lower you get in the soil profile, the longer it takes to warm up. So 3-inch mark is where a lot of seeds are generally planted, or some of the deepest seeds are planted, in the case of squash or peas, beans, you name it. And so because of that, I knew my soil was ready to be planted for any seed that was soil surface to the lower surface, based on that soil temp and the fact that those peas germinated. So it's a great indicator of when to get out in the garden, but it also yields an early harvest. And my peas, I talked about this, I think in the spring when I talked about crops I will never grow. Peas are one of them. I'll never give a sole row crop or a sole space to peas, just because I find the harvesting of them to be obnoxious. However, I do intercrop with peas, so I will place peas sporadically throughout my garden because of their nitrogen fixing abilities. They just add to the rhizosphere and just the overall microbiome of my soil, as well as they're great for snacking. So because of that, you can just plant peas all around your garden. Just scatter them around, plop them in wherever you choose to plant, and you will see really great benefits, as well as it's a great indicator of when that bed is ready to be planted. So peas, absolute must fall seed to plant. So the last two kind of fall in the same category, and that is nasturtium and flowers. Now, the nasturtium obviously is a larger seed, it's edible, but people grow it for its look, its appeal. These are ones you can plant. And in the case of flowers, you can plant things like morning glories, the list. Morning glories, poppies, sunflowers, hollyhocks, calendula, wildflowers. And so you can plant all of these at this time. Again, if you left these annuals, the annual list there, if you left them in place, they will reseed themselves in your garden. This may be beneficial, this may not be good. So if you don't want them to self-seed and turn into a weed, in particular hollyhocks, the morning glories and the sunflower seeds, just maybe put them in the compost for right now, take them off, get rid of them before they do self-seed, and then purposefully seed them where they need to be. So that list obviously is going to give your bees food sooner. It's also going to make your yard more appealing sooner in the year, as well as you don't have to start them indoors, which is always a benefit, because let's face it, we can only run so many grow lights in our house before our husbands or our wives want to kick our butts. So definitely something to start outdoors. Now, one thing to keep in mind with all of these is that you can, I would put these in, you can do these in raised beds. They tend to be okay. A little bit better than the garlic or the bulbs I spoke about in other videos. These can go into raised beds. I wouldn't put them into containers. They tend to not do as well in containers. I'm gonna do a video on overwintering plants in containers here very soon. And if you follow those steps, they might be a little better off, I guess you could say, but not a guarantee. In-ground is your best bet. The highest guarantee of germination and success is an in-ground bed or a raised bed that is not highly raised off the ground and is relatively close to the ground surface. So do keep that in mind, but give this a shot. It's a game changer. It's gonna make a huge difference. You don't water them, you don't fertilize them, you do nothing. So if your water's shut off, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just put them in, and you let nature do its work for you. And it's super simple. All you gotta do is put the seeds in. No fertilizer, no water. You could use mulch. Use mulch in the case of lettuce or more surface value seeds. Otherwise, anything planted deeper, just pile the snow on to protect them and draw off to the races. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, thumbs up, subscribe, comments. Comment down below what seeds you have started in the fall. This list by no means was exhaustive, so there's a lot of seeds out there that you could go with, ones you've tried and worked, ones you've tried that haven't been successful. If you choose that route, zone, location, in the comments, it's going to help people out. Comment section, by the way, if you're new to this channel, much smarter than I am most of the time, much more helpful because it's very local based info, which is hugely beneficial. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.